Welcome to the Hockey Writers Chicks and Sticks, a weekly show hosted by some of our best female hockey writers, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From talking hockey with NHL personalities to tackling the latest big issues, our team covers everything hockey and more. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some Chicks and Sticks.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 35 of Chicks and Sticks, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. My name is Melissa Boyd, and I'm once again joined by my partners in crime, Christy Flannery, who's back after a week away, Hannah Garfield, and Mariah Stark. Before we start, just wanted to let you know that our humble show is brought to you by the Morning Skate, the Hockey Writers morning newsletter that gets delivered to your inbox 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. It has all the best hockey stuff in it, fun stuff, anything you want to read about hockey, it's in there, and you get to read it right when you get up in the morning. So it's the perfect thing. If you're not subscribed, please do so at morningskate.io. All right. Well, we have a full slate this week. Yay, full panel. So we'll start with our customary team updates, and our show theme today is trade deadline. Woohoo, because we're less than 3 weeks away. Hannah, how are things in Boston?
Things in Boston are better than they were last week. They've been out in California. They've been, making the Western swing right now. So a lot of late games that I've unfortunately just been catching highlights of because your girl's in grad school and is not staying up that late watching hockey, unfortunately. But no, I think they had a really, really great victory against the Los Angeles Kings on Monday night, a close loss, frustrating loss to the Ducks the following night, and they're currently playing in Vegas right now. I know, fun. Well, I say right now it's 7:47, so they're not actually playing for another hour because, Western side of the country. But, the best news is that Jeremy Swayman was just named Rookie of the Month for the month of February. He's been outstanding since coming back up from Providence with Tuukka Rask's retirement. He has, I think I saw his records 5-1-1. So, really doing great there, and has honestly probably played himself. I don't think he will win the Calder, but I think he should be in the conversation to be a finalist. I think at this point it's Moritz Seider's Calder to lose. Yeah. But I think that Swayman should be in the conversation.
I agree. And I think an article actually was published today about Jeremy Swayman.
I did do a rookie spotlight on him.
There you go. So go read it. He is playing really well right now, for sure. And Mariah, I think it's not going so well in Minnesota these days, is it?
So Calgary is a team that is going to go far in the playoffs. That's all I can say. The Wild did not play like they normally do, but it was fun to watch on the Calgary end of things. And I was just kind of like, what on earth is my team doing? But it's not all bad. We're currently tied with Philadelphia right now. They just tied it up. So they're starting to look like the team they were. And every team's going to hit a slump. They're missing Dumba and Greenway still, which is really affecting the Blue Line. And against Calgary, we could tell we were missing the physical presence other than the second game around. But they need to play their own game and not try to play to the style of the other team. It does not work. So here's to hoping tonight continues to go better and on to better things from there.
I'm sure, like you said, it's just a mini slump. And Montreal is playing Calgary tonight, so I'm officially scared. I'm scared. And you can pretty much guarantee that Tyler Toffoli will have a hat trick. And you heard it here first.
Breaking news of Mel.
Yeah, exactly. Before it happens. Christy actually is going to talk to us about the Devils, but also he was at the Stadium Series game this past weekend between. So, and she's been talking since we got on tonight. She's been talking about it. So I said, save some for the show. So go.
Okay, I'll do the Stadium Series first. I can get it out of the way. Guys, if you have not booked a trip to Nashville to see the Predators play at Bridgestone or Nissan Stadium for that matter, you need to go. This is just an organization that knows how to put on a production. And I'm not even going to credit the NHL. I'm going to go straight to the Predators with this one. They just have this knack of just combining hockey and country music and just really bringing in everything that city represents. And it's just chef's kiss perfection. It was literally like I sat there and it was hockey and the CMA Fest combined, and it was the greatest night of my life. right there with the wedding. It was right there. I was like, this is going to be a close one.
I'm sure Brian loved that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I hope Brian doesn't.
Brian just sat there. I mean, he's a good sport. He sat there, and I mean, the good news for him is that it ended in regulation. I think that was the first game he's ever been to where it ended where it was supposed to. Usually we go and it's like 0.3 seconds left and it goes into overtime, and he just stares at me like, really, we're doing this? But yeah, great experience. Love Nashville. Wonder it should have been marketed better than what it was, like we talked about before the show. And as far as the Devils go, they're looking good right now. They found their offensive, scoring touch. They've been scoring 7 goals, 6 goals. And it leads to the question of where has this team been the whole time? And it kind of makes fans realize that health and COVID were really a big problem besides the goaltending, because of course that was its own issue. But when healthy, this is a really fun team to watch. So the future is bright. They're not where they want to be in the standings, but overall they're making a step in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. And we're going to talk about this in a bit, but I feel like it feels like the Devils want to do something big in the trade market. I know they're rumored to be in on a few, players, and
yeah,
I feel like they're just on the cusp of like turning the corner. And so it'll be interesting to see from now until the deadline, of course, but also this offseason, what happens.
Yeah, they're saying like 2024, 2025. That's going to be when this team is like a force to be reckoned with. So stay tuned. Sure.
No, they're definitely a team to watch. If they're on TV here in Canada, I make sure to tune in. Jack Hughes is must-see ticket.
Hughes.
Yeah.
Chicks and Sticks season 4, we'll be talking all about the success of the
I'm
Devils.
taking over.
That's it. It'll just be like Jack Hughes, theme show or whatever.
We're taking over season 4. Get ready. Everyone's in a Devils jersey that season.
Yeah. Well, I'll be really quick in Montreal. Pretty quiet. Well, 5-game winning streak, which is pretty amazing for this team. Mm-hmm. They lost to the Jets on Tuesday in a crazy game, 8-4 game. They were down 4-0, came back, tied it 4-4. Josh Anderson had a hat trick. It was like one of those crazy games. Anyway, so Martin St. Louis' winning streak is officially over. So we'll see how he rebounds. And it's the Tyler Toffoli's first game against his former team tonight in Calgary. So we'll see how that goes. I'm, as I said, not looking forward to it. So we'll see. We're going to talk about it, but Canadiens should also be a team to watch at the trade deadline too. Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of the trade deadline. So as we are recording right now, we are 17 days away from March 21st. So less than 3 weeks. Not a lot has happened yet. Still kind of, it's percolating and we're just waiting for the first dominoes to drop. So it is a good time to kind of set it up, what we might see over the next few weeks. My first thing that I was thinking was there are some teams who are under a lot of pressure from now until March 21st. Buyers playoff teams who need to perform in the postseason, like a first round exit will be unacceptable. And also I think some selling teams as well who need to maximize value for some of their players. So my question to you is, who to you are some of the teams or one of the teams that are under the most pressure? Otherwise, they're in big trouble this offseason. Mariah, I'll start with you.
So I'm going to say this. Trades are probably my weakest aspect of things because I could never predict it. No, I will say I'm relying on our colleagues' articles for this. And I did have one I could kind of think of by myself, and it was Edmonton, but then I did find an article that backed my point, and that they do need to find. So, it's by our colleague Rob, and just that, you know, they should be looking, because they have to do something. They just got Kane, and I mean, I haven't followed them as close, but the Wild did beat them like 2 weeks ago. And I mean, their weakest thing is goaltending, I think, when I watch them. It's obviously not all the goaltenders' fault. They need all-around players. I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl can't carry the team by themselves. We've seen this over the years. Otherwise, they would be Stanley Cup winners every year. So they obviously need to figure something out. As far as who and where, I would suggest going to the website and reading the articles by our great colleagues.
Yeah, our Edmonton Oilers team is on fire these days. There's like article after article coming out every day. So yeah, they'll get you primed for the trade deadline, no doubt. But I agree, that's a good choice. I think they are under quite a bit of pressure. Christy, who's yours?
I mean, I think the Edmonton Oilers are the obvious choice. I mean, as long as McDavid and Draisaitl are on that roster, they're going to be under so much pressure to get further than the first round, or at least get into it. And I do agree they have issues beyond goaltending. What about Georgiev from the Rangers? Because I know they said that they're looking to kind of get him out. He's pretty young. I don't know if he has it in him to be a starter. And I think compared to, you know, who his goaltending partner is now, he's never going to be that caliber. But he might be an interesting name maybe to look at.
Agreed.
And I think my team that I'm kind of like, what are they going to do? Is I'm going to say Anaheim. Because they did really well, and then they kind of fell off a little bit, and they are currently they're fourth.
Yeah, I think they're 2 points. Yeah, I think they're 2 points out of.
So I'm really intrigued because they have such young talent, and it's going to be one of those things where, okay, we've kind of turned a corner. We have this young talent now. We can build upon it, or are they going to be like, screw it, let's just go for it? And so that's kind of my team where I think I'm the most intrigued with what Anaheim's going to do, if they're going to go for it, because they're kind of on the cusp right now.
I agree. And the other interesting thing about them is that they also have some pending UFAs, and it'll be interesting how they balance that, because if they don't think that, I mean, the big name that is being talked about is Hampus Lindholm. They're one of their top defensemen. So it's like balancing that. Well, do I keep him for the playoff run? But then if I'm pretty sure he's not coming back, do I really want to let him walk for free?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's I agree. They're a team to watch. Plus they have a brand new GM too. So it'll be interesting how he handles things too. So good choice there. Hannah, who are you going to be watching at the trade?
It's been a while. As a Bruins fan, it's been a while since I've dunked on the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I think it's time. I mean, I think they're another obvious choice like Edmonton. I think they have a more complete team than Edmonton, but the pressure is certainly on for that team to finally get past the first round. And, you know, some of their trade deadline deals in the past have not worked out, aka Nick Foligno last season. So I think, I don't necessarily know what they would need. Again, like Mariah says, we have a really talented team at the Hockey Writers who are certainly writing on that quite often. And it's an interesting read every time. But they need to get past the first round. I think more than any other team in the NHL, they have the pressure this season that they need to get past the first round. And if they don't, that team's getting blown. I feel like that team will get blown up this year if they don't. So the pressure is on Dubas to make moves at the trade deadline to make sure that they are securing their spot and securing their team. And being ready to make it into the second round finally.
Yeah, for sure. And they're in a really tough Atlantic division. So, you know, they're probably going to play Florida or Tampa in the first round. And my team is Toronto as well. And I'll just add, since you explained it so eloquently there, Hannah, I will just add, I think, an even bigger reason for me right now why they're the team to watch and team under most is all of a sudden their goaltending has gone south. Jack Campbell is not the goalie he was at the beginning of the season. And that just adds to the pressure. Does he go get goaltending help? Does he leave them? Campbell and Mrazek as his two options. Like I wouldn't want to be Kyle Dubas right now.
Not with that fan base breathing down your neck.
In the next few weeks. And I think last night they lost 5-1 to the Sabres at home, their first game full capacity in about 3 months, and they got booed off the ice. So it's the tensions are very high in Toronto at the moment, and it's I can't wait to see what he's going to do with no cap space. So
I love it. I love a good train wreck sometimes. even though they're not a train wreck, like they're not, but it's all the makings of a train wreck where they have these great superstars who are so much fun to watch, a really rabid, passionate fan base, and then just this inability to get past the first round.
It's like Edmonton's kind of a train wreck on the ice. And it's like every other factor in Toronto is just creating the perfect storm.
Yes.
It's just, it's the making of just.
And it's so fun. It's like every time you think they're kind of out of it, then something really weird happens to them and you can't help but laugh at them. Not laugh. It's just this would only happen to the Maple Leafs. This kind, the David Ayres story from last season, Carolina. That only happens to Toronto, I'm telling you. It would never happen to any team anyways. So I keep an eye out for Toronto and Edmonton for sure as well. Okay, speaking of the trade deadline, our second topic is, we talk about the teams that are under the most pressure and are most likely to be moving. Who do you think is going to be moving at the deadline? There are a lot of names out there. Pending UFAs, but also players who still have term on their deal. So we'll see, but it seems to keep fluctuating, but these are the big names that we're hearing: Claude Giroux, Jacob Chychrun, John Klingberg, Max Domi, Jeff Petrie, Jake DeBrusk, Hampus Lindholm, JT Miller. There's a lot of players, but who do you think out of all those names is the biggest name that's going to get traded from now until March 21st? Christy, we'll start with you.
This is so hard. I don't know why, but I have a feeling that a lot of players are going to be in action for this trade deadline. And I don't know why. I just have that feeling. Claude Giroux kind of fascinates me to a degree because he gave his list of 3 teams that he wants to go to. And I looked at what those rosters are, and he said his first choice is Colorado. And let's be honest, who wouldn't want to go to Colorado? They've been picked to be the Stanley Cup winner for 3 years now. Who wouldn't want that? But where does he fit into that lineup? When you examine it, is he willing? I mean, he's older. He hasn't won a Stanley Cup. Are you willing to go to a contending team and play 3rd or 4th line minutes? I guess that's kind of where I feel he is. And I actually think he would be a really good fit in Minnesota, Mariah, to be honest. So I think he's interesting, but I feel like it's not going to be the big name that makes the difference. I kind of feel like it's going to be a year where it's going to be Coleman and those kind of players where you wouldn't really think twice about it, but then they're going to go together, they're going to mesh together. So I don't know, even Phil Kessel. Phil Kessel might go to a team and all of a sudden you're just where has this guy been this entire time? So I don't know. I guess
Kessel.
I guess I'm intrigued to see where Claude Giroux ends up, if he ends up in one of his top 3, and how he shakes up the lineup. If they're going to bring him in and then kick off, bring one of their players down, or if Claude Giroux is going to be content playing bottom 6 minutes.
And the fascinating thing about him too is he's having a good year.
He's having such a good year. He leads all Flyers.
Yeah, on a terrible team, but having such a good year. And everybody last season and the year before were writing him off, saying he's finished. And so I agree. I mean, and I guess the latest is he hasn't really decided if he wants to leave or not. So they're waiting. So that is going to be fascinating to watch. Hannah, who do you have on your radar?
I mean, I think there's so many big names that are out there, like you said, and the words. There's so many, there's so many. I was like, I had a train of thought in my head, and then I was like trying to say it, and it was not working. So let's do that again. No, I think this trade deadline is going to be very interesting because, like we've said, there's a lot of big names available, but there's not a lot of cap space. And I think we've seen in the past that it isn't the big names that make the difference. It is the smaller names, like Christy was just saying. It's the Blake Colemans, because the teams that are the real contenders, they're not going out and getting the biggest names. They're getting the guys that fill in very specific roles. I wrote about this with the Bruins a couple of weeks ago because, they could go out and get one of these big names. But the fact of the matter is that the Bruins aren't one big name away from being a Stanley Cup contender. And the teams that are Stanley Cup contenders, like a Colorado Avalanche, do they want a Claude Giroux? Do they want to mess with that, the chemistry they have? Do they have the cap space for Claude Giroux? I think it's really interesting. So again, as a Bruins fan, I'm really interested to see what the Bruins do with Jake DeBrusk at the deadline. He requested a trade, I want to say almost 2 months ago at this point. He's still there. Do they trade? He will be a restricted free agent this summer. He doesn't want to be on the team. Like, trade him now when he's on a hot streak. He just had he's coming off of a first career hat trick. Like, trade him now, get someone with term. Don't get a rental. Don't go out and get a Jacob Chikrin. Get someone who could actually be part of the long-term solution and start looking for next year.
Yeah, agreed. You got to be careful when you're buying those UFAs for sure, because it could turn out like Nick Foligno and Toronto. Not so good. Mariah, who are you going to be watching?
They named both of mine.
Oh.
I was going to say Giroux just because I've honestly both of them, DeBrusk too, because I've heard so much talk about both of them being moved over the last how many I don't know about DeBrusk, how long it's been, but Giroux, I know it's been forever that he's been talked about being. And honestly, I was surprised he's still with the Flyers at this point for how much talk has been going on, because it's like sometimes with players, they'll get hyped for 2-3 months and then it'll disappear. With Giroux, it's like never ending.
You can't question his devotion to Philly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No. And he, I think, actually got a goal tonight, I think. But Christy, to answer your question, I like him as a player, but as far as going to the Wild, my only problem with him would be the age, because the Wild just bought out Parisi, Suter, they let Koivu go. Do they really want to commit to an older center right now when they have a lot of young guys? I don't know Rossi's situation right now, but he was up for a little bit, but his contract and the rookie thing and all of that, I don't really know all of that aspect. But I mean, do they want to get him, and how long would they hang on to? That's my whole thing.
Isn't Giroux though UFA at the end of this?
Yeah,
I haven't looked at it. Because what I see happening with Giroux is I see him going, getting traded to a contender, and if he wins, I could see him signing a 1-year deal to retire as a Flyer.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Giroux would just be a rental for the playoffs, and then he would go back.
And maybe the conversation that he has with Chuck Fletcher and Philly is, I'll go, but I want to come back. And
yeah,
so,
that's what I see
that.
him doing that, because he's been a captain, I think, for like 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see him retiring not as a Philadelphia Flyer. I think this is more of like, this is my last chance to win a cup. I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
As he should. Good for Giroux.
As he should, yeah.
Yeah.
I respect players who do that. They've done their time. So
Paul Ray Bork.
Yeah, Ray Bork. Yeah, classic. With Patrick Roy. Yeah. Yeah, that one hurt. Well, I'm gonna go with you girls talked about like the lesser names that make a difference, and I think that will be the case as well. And and I'm going to stick with my team and say Arturi Lehkonen.
That's a good one.
It was a name that's been out there. I mean, listen, I wrote an article a while back about which players I think the Canadiens should keep for their whatever they're going to do, whatever they're going to call it, roster transformation. We'll go with that. He was one of the players that I thought they should keep, but I understand his value, especially to playoff teams. He is, they are comparing him to a Barclay Goodrow, Blake Coleman type player. And we know how valuable those players are. And I think that he's going to be a player that is moved from now till March 21st for exactly those reasons. And I think the team that's going to get him is going to be much better for it. The other, and I will say, I'll go a little step further and I'll say, I'm going to guess he's going to go to the Rangers because it just feels like there's been speculation about it as well, but it just feels like there's a trade looming between the Rangers and the Canadiens just because of the connections, obvious connections. And I could see Lehkonen being a great fit there.
The Rangers rebuild did not last long enough. I'm sorry, but they need to suffer just like a couple more seasons.
But that's why the Canadiens hired Jeff Gordon. They don't want their rebuild to last too long either. No, but I think the Rangers have a lot of prospects that would be of interest to the Canadiens, and a lot of them that Jeff Gordon drafted originally. So I could see there being something there. And also a team I should say too, shout out to our director, Matt, I have to get us in. I think the Canucks will be interesting to see as well, just because they have so many players in the rumors like Brock Besser, Connor Garland, so non-rental players. So it'll be interesting to see if any of those names get dealt as well. So just wanted to get that in there too while I was thinking of it. All right, so we're going to wrap up the show with our awards again. So we've gone through pretty much all the awards, and this week is the Selke Trophy, so for the league's top defensive forward, which is a little bit harder to do, I feel like, but because it's very specific criteria. But there are some options that are, the usual suspects. So Patrice Bergeron, Alexander Barkov, who won last season, Philippe Deneau, who's been in the conversation for some time, Anze Kopitar, who's having a great season in LA. There's Nazem Kadri, Ryan O'Reilly. So for the Selke, who do you have as your front runner right now, Hannah?
Oh, no question. Patrice Bergeron. I'm sorry.
I started with you for a reason.
Yes. For this, I will say that it also was circulating around Twitter earlier this week. Jay Fresh Hockey on Twitter was sharing, he does a lot of stats and a lot of graphs. And I mean, Patrice Bergeron is literally just off the chart, and all the stats that you use to evaluate two-way defenseman. I mean, two-way forward. Sorry. He's having career all-time high careers
Yeah.
Cannot speak
This
tonight.
is why we should drink during our show.
I was drinking.
So much smoother.
I was drinking. I had a seltzer here. No, his numbers are off the chart this year. He is so much higher than anybody else. Like the fact that there's this argument that gets brought up every year that, Patrice Bergeron shouldn't win because he's always a finalist. And I'm like, he's always a finalist because he is the best two-way forward in this league. Yes, there's a lot of other great two-way forwards in this league. Patrice Bergeron is the best, has been the best, and he at least needs to be a finalist, should be the winner.
Yep, I'm
passionate about this.
Yeah, his player card is like insane. You're like, he's literally at 100%. You're like, okay, well, that's that. He's an all-timer. Yeah, no wonder he's going to the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Mariah, who would you choose?
Andrzej Kopitar.
Mm.
I've been a fan of his since I was little. He's an all-around player. And I mean, maybe he's not quite Bergeron, but I personally think he's the best Hannah. So I'm going with him.
It's a good choice. He's having a resurgent year thanks to Philip Deneau, who's kind of helped him out there at center. Christy, who do you have?
Until the next generation of players gets developed, this award for me, the finalists are Bergeron, O'Reilly, and Kopitar every year. They're just the three of them. They're so good. I mean, to Hannah's point, Bergeron, and I like Bergeron too, but he's so good. Personal bias, I will never vote against Ryan O'Reilly. But, and you know what? I even like seeing Barkov's name. I'm like, he's kind of like the dark horse in this whole thing too. But for me, it's those top three every year until like the Nico Heishers and like the younger kids kind of develop and take over that role. It's the three of them.
Yep, for sure. You can't go wrong with those three. The same. I'm gonna go with Hannah and say Bergeron. He's having a especially good year this year, so they don't have an excuse not to give it to him, I think, this season.
He should have the record for most Selke trophies, and they just need to give him the fifth one.
I mean, he's in a contract year, so I mean, they have to give it to him to help him in his negotiations, you know? It's a little bit of extra money there.
True. I won't even, I think whatever money Patrice Bergeron wants, Patrice Bergeron should get.
Yes, I agree.
He deserves it. He's a king amongst men. I love Patrice Bergeron.
And that is the message of this week's episode.
Yes.
That's what we'll put it as. Patrice Bergeron.
King amongst
men.
That's the title of this episode, Matthew.
All right. On that note, we always find a good way to end the show. That's all the time we have for this week. I'm already skipping ahead to next week. Thanks as always for tuning in. And a reminder that we are brought to you by the Morning Skate, our morning newsletter. If you're not signed up, please do so. Christy and the team do a wonderful job on it. And I don't know how they keep coming up with topics and subjects, and it's great stuff. Funny stuff, stat stuff, history stuff, and of course, obviously, all your latest and greatest news too. So sign up at morningskate.io, and we will see you next week.